Lovely to meet the two of you. As I said, Soha, this is the last time we met. So how has it been since?
I think it's been great in most of the departments. It's been good. But of course, everybody after the Perils of Being Moderately Famous was saying, write another book, write another book. And on the top of that list was Kunal and my mother and others. And I was just not finding the time to do it. So at least I can finally say, we've written another book.
You have, and you got him on to contribute as well.
Exactly. More than just contribute. And we've got from there to here.
Awesome. Inni and Bobo, you know, I do see you with your daughter and with doggos around her, which is really endearing because I'm a doggo buff myself. I live for dogs. They're the only people I smile and talk to. So, you know, literally, how did this come about? Both of you, and whose contribution was what?
Actually, Soha has been really good at, you know, getting Innaya into the world of books and stories and storybooks. But she does most of them with the books that are already there, and she'll read to her all the time. And Innaya loves looking at those pictures because she can't still read it. And so I started doing this. Another thing with her from an early on age was I used to tell her stories. I would create stories, and then it became a thing where I would ask her to pick any 3 characters that she wanted in a story, or a world that she wanted in the story. So it could be like a unicorn, Innaya, a rabbit, and let's say a forest. So I would build a story around it. So while we were doing these off and on, I came up with this story of how Innaya actually went one day to an adoption center, and you know there were dogs there, and I was telling her about that, and she said to me that, why can I not see these as a picture? And that's where the idea came from. And I told Soha, first I said that should we get somebody to like, you know, just illustrate for us so that we can show Innaya the pictures of the stories that I'm trying to tell her. And she said, but we can also like, you know, tell the story to the whole world. And there are so many kids who might, you know, resonate with the story. And that's where it started. Like, so I did the structuring, like the story I had in my head, and I put it down, and then Soha kind of gave it the whole form of how it would turn out to be on the book. And that's where it started.
Awesome. And Soha, you know, it's not very easy to actually write for kids because we think it's easy. You know, when we're telling them stories verbally, we can bluff around, but writing is a different ballgame. So how challenging was it?
It's challenging because you wanted, you know, when you speak to the child, you don't want to have to explain yourself. So you use simple language. And they say you don't really know anything unless you can explain it to a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old. You don't really know any subject until you can simplify it down to the basics. So to do it in that way, and also for it to be evocative, for it to be emotional, because you want the child to laugh out loud. You know, Innaya is very expressive as a child. So if she likes something, she literally giggles and laughs out loud. You know, you'll see her getting reflective about certain things. So we wanted it to excite emotions as well as for it to be very relatable and simple in terms of language.
So has Innaya been, you know, I don't know whether she reads, you know, because big words, or has she heard the story?
So she's starting now to blend a little bit with phonics in school and outside of school. Of course, this is too much for her to read, but we read to her and she looks at the pictures, and for her to understand now also that the process of writing a book has been so real. You know, from actually creating a story like Kunal created the story, it was just a figment of his imagination, to actually watching us write it, to finding an illustrator, to publishing it, and to presenting her with the book. She's seen actually the whole journey.
But she was actually the first reviewer, because when we finished writing the story in its complete form, before the illustrations happened, we actually read it out to her. And when she understood it and she gave us a thumbs up, was when we were confident saying that, okay, now we can get into publishing this.
Yeah.
Now, is she asking for Bobo?
She does. She loves animals. And in fact, just yesterday, we've got a caterpillar at home, which has been the first pet. I don't know if the caterpillar is a pet since Masti passed away. So it's been very difficult, especially so. So, you know, I don't think we're ready as yet for another Bobo, but in good time. Hopefully we'll have another animal, another life, you know, in our family.
That's what they say. It's when your pet who has passed on feels it's the right time, they send one along. Yeah. I'm waiting for my departed pet also to give me that signal.
Really?
You know? Yeah. Kunal's met him actually.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's the most difficult thing. Maybe, you're giving me an idea. Maybe I could write something for
Sure.
Of course you can.
Babu, yeah. Or maybe it could be the start of a series. I could join you guys. Yeah? Are you planning to, though? Are you planning to? A series of,
Yes.
We've actually already written the second, and we've thought about the third. And it's endless. The opportunities, the potential for the adventures that Inni and Bobo can go on, it's limitless.
I also want to ask both of you, since he started off as a child artist, you've been in the spotlight as a child, but itna nahi tha. What is it like parenting and bringing up a kid with social media paps, lens, because you want that privacy also, and you also don't want your child to be exposed? How tough is it also as parents?
I think you can, now that it's been some time, it was a tougher question to answer when it was very new. And I know that there is a need for information that everybody has. And sometimes I've always been like, I have not been able to process this information myself. So I don't have an answer for that. But right now, I think it is possible to do a switch on, switch off in that as well. Because I think maybe a few years ago, from both sides, it was so new that even the paps did not know. And because there was immediately a demand to say, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, there was a lot of it happening. I think it's kind of eased out a little bit anyways. And now also, if you tell them respectfully that please don't, then they're okay. Then they say, okay, then can you guys come and we won't click Innaya. But then there are those off times when, if she's gone with her Didi to some place and there are some paps there and they'll do that. But I think I've accepted it as a part and parcel of our lives. And as long as it's not, but the day if it bothers her, then I'll make a,
I think the main concern is the psychological. First, it was the safety of your child, because they say flashes are bad for newborn children. There would be a lot of flashes going on. So mainly from a safety perspective with jostling and, photographers. Now it's more psychological perspective, because you want your child to have, quote unquote, as normal as upbringing as possible. And, you worry about them having a sense of self. And, she's already understood what being famous means. She already understands that, she's recognized by people that she doesn't recognize. So what does that do to someone who's poor? What does that do when another famous child is born and, people move on to them?
True.
You just want to be protective of them.
I totally get that. And, I would say your nephews and she are the most clicked kids. And I think your older nephew, Taimur, has got the knack of handling facts way better than your brother and sister-in-law, I must say. Out his tongue and he'll say, no.
Yeah.
So also, so they say mums become like their mothers, which however much they might say, I'm not going to be like my mom, but they end up becoming like a mom. Do you see the shades of your mom in yourself now as you're bringing up Innaya, or no? Look
I was trying to protest whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I
see Kunal smiling.
Yeah, I know, he's just like, you know my mother and you know me. I think he should answer this question. How can I judge myself? And what does that mean?
The whole thing of like wanting to be in control of every single thing, like right from the temperature of the air conditioner in the car, not like even asking somebody that, are you fine? You just decide, like, so being in control of everything. And I love it when Innaya throws it out of the window. And like, because it's like, I can't do that because I'll have to deal with an argument. If somebody else does it, which is beyond her control, for example, an aircraft, I don't know, those are my guilty pleasures sometimes. I'm like, oh, God.
But so over to you.
I can hear my mother's voice sometimes coming out of my mouth. And sometimes it's disturbing. I, of course, think that she's an incredibly capable and efficient person. So I do think it's a compliment to be compared to her, certainly. But I also understand that she is quite controlling in the way that I am as well. In fact, I'm more controlling than she is as a parent. She was far, and I'm the third child. So when it came down to me, they were very relaxed, as you are with, second and third children. So certainly I find myself being, as I said, I want to be in control. I want things to go according to my plan. And I can sometimes be forgetful of the needs of others. But it's something that I'm working on.
So we have a hashtag no filter real me. So I'll start with you. What is your hashtag no filter real me site?
I have only one side, which is my right profile. Nobody has seen my left profile. So it'll probably be, this is my no filter real side. Hey, takes a lot of time.
And a no filter real me moment in your life?
Yeah.
What?
So when we fight, the no filter side comes out.
Yeah, I mean, those are things that I'm very controlled and very patient. And usually in public, I behave the way that I want people to see and like me. So I'm very much
Also, sometimes when you goof up, those are the nice ones.
Yeah, that's true.
Only I get to see.
I do also prize my intelligence and all of that. And sometimes I slip up and make mistakes.
In the most silly ways.
Kunal laughs at me. And times when I lose my temper, which it takes a lot to make me lose my cool. And very few people. In fact, there's only one person in the world who can do that, who's right on the sofa with me.
Can you share one of that no filter real me moment?
Like, what is it, like how? Like, how do you want me to
Something
share?
that happened when the mask slipped and you were like, oh my God, this is actually me.
What did you say the other day, which was really funny? I remember it now.
No, I can't say that.
What was it though?
There's certain skeletal things you're talking about.
Oh, no, something.
No, there's not. I would say that the last fight we had, I mean, we don't have to push ourselves too far, like this morning or yesterday, or some kind of argument that we had. But there have been times where I remember when I was very conscious about Innaya, again, not listening to us argue. And I remember the first time she left the house with my mother when she was all of 6 months or something. My mother took her somewhere. And Kunal and I were alone for the first time in this house since she was born and since I was pregnant. And we had a fight and I completely lost it. Like I was screaming only because I'd not had that release in about a year and a half. I'd never raised my voice. And I went completely mental. I know, I just completely went off the railing, but it was so much fun.
Well, look at him smiling. It wasn't fun for him. He's like,
I remember.
In the middle of that, I took out popcorn and I was watching this show that was unfolding in front of me.
You were also quite concerned for me.
what's your no filter real me side?
He has no filter all the time. Ask him when is he filtered. That would be more challenging to think of. When have you tried not to be yourself?
Yeah. I'm actually always no filter, actually.
Wow.
I mean, I take care of the things that I say in public because diplomacy is of utmost importance sometimes. But mostly, otherwise, casually, I'm no filter all the time.
Tough parenting and being a mom in this day and age because people romanticize parenthood, motherhood on Instagram, and it's a very different reality, which is that one myth you both want to bust as celebrity parents also and as regular parents too, because you're celebrities in the world of social media, yes, but at home I'm sure you are as normal as can be.
I think the myths have all been busted during the lockdown for all of us, and we've all had to be teachers, we've had to be we've had to be nannies, we've had to do so much completely by ourselves because we were so isolated from the rest of the world, at least for the first year. And I think for me the most difficult thing was being a teacher and doing online school, because I thought, for example, that I would be the best influence on my child. I still do, but I've now come to recognize that that is certainly a myth, because the more influences they're exposed to, certainly the more complex and the more diverse and the more interesting people they're going to turn out to be. And you don't want your child to be a reflection of you. Much as I think that I'm a great reflection, I understand that she needs to be her own person. So what I'm happy about is that now she's getting to go to school, she's getting to go to classes, she's meeting peers, grandparents, all the things that I thought were not so important, that we were the most important things in her life.
Yeah.
I now recognize the value of that.
Kunal, the biggest challenge as Papa, which you didn't anticipate and didn't realize would happen. Because, sometimes dads think they have it all, and then suddenly it hits you.
I don't know. I mean, even talking of these myths and everything, I've never been somebody who's kind of tried to anticipate and learn before it happens, because I think when it comes to a human life, it's never going to be like a software. It's not a phone or there's no software that's going to work a certain way. A baby's going to be different. It was like the first day that we came home with her in our hands, even though everybody had prepped us for everything, we were so clueless after having read, Soha had read so many books. But then we figured it out, and not every child is the same. They have different mood swings. They have, what I think I learned is that I was very worried about how I would deal with a baby that couldn't tell me if he or she is in pain. In her case, like she's in pain or she's clogged up, what she's feeling, is she hungry? So that was a slightly more nervous phase when they're unable to talk and kind of, express what they're going through. So even if it was like putting that pipe in her nostril and pulling out the snot, which is stuck, I used to get really worked up about that. Or even when to give her shots or vaccinations, it was like a tough thing for me to handle. Other than that, also because I wasn't expecting anything, because it's like an unexpected thing. So it's all been a learning curve. I think we're still learning. I think she's teaching us how to be parents, and I'm enjoying every bit of it. And I know she's actually doing the heavy lifting. And all power to you. And you can be as controlled, not a control-friendly person as you want to be.
But
I love you.
So sweet.
One thing that, in terms of like things that we expected, I wanted to be on my best behavior around my child. I wanted to be a role model because I want her to be the best form of herself. And one thing that both Kunal and the lockdown and Innaya have taught me is that it's okay for me to slip up. It's okay for me to lose my temper. It's okay for me to, have a fight, burst into tears. She needs to know that we are human and that we'll make mistakes in front of her. The important thing is that we recognize those mistakes and we apologize for them.
Yeah. I think it's important to also not over-sanitize your surroundings, because you're going to prep them for the real world. And you don't want to put them in a place where they're suddenly in the real world and they're like, oh my God, why is everything not happening to my whims and fancies? And, in the real world, it's a different thing. We can sanitize everything here. But I think you should give them at least a teaser of things that happen. People get angry and people get upset and people do fight sometimes. But obviously, with a kid around, your language has to be in control, and you can't start breaking things. Even that happens, but you don't need them to see that.
And they pick up bad language first,
Yeah.
So. As you call her the power lifter, I'm going to pay her a compliment. What I like about you, Soha, is, in this age of filters and looking a certain way, you look very real, whether it's fresh, devoid of makeup, doing your workouts, saying that, I'm having a problem here. So this is what I want to ask you, where everyone's focused on skincare regime and looking a certain way. What is your go-to? How do you take care of yourself in this day and age where we are just obsessed?
I'm very interested in self-love. I really do believe that it's important for you to look after yourself and to look and feel good. And that definition differs from people to people. For me, it's not necessarily about wearing the right clothes, but I do care about my appearance, especially my skin. And of course, when you enter your 40s, you're challenged by lots of things that are beyond your control. So I think things like regular exercise. And in the last 4 months, I've really tried to amp up my fitness routine. Getting the right sleep, which I think is key, because if you've slept well, you can take on the world. And if you're underslept, I certainly can't handle most things and I fall apart. So getting more than 7 hours, ideally 8 hours of sleep at the right time, working out and drinking the right amount of water, which I never do, but I'm still working on that. I need to drink enough water because that's also very important. These are the things that I turn to.
And we're very interested in knowing your skincare routine or the kind of products that you use or endorse.
Obviously too many, because that's Kunal's main grievance, is that, if we plan to go to bed at 11 o'clock, he will hit the sack at 11 o'clock, but it takes me 15 minutes. 15 minutes? Yeah. I can bring it down to 8 minutes. Wow. Because you have to wash your face, you have to brush your teeth, you have to apply, some kind of serum, then a moisturizer, sometimes a face pack. And I would like other women to say that this is normal, that it takes about 8 minutes to get ready for bed.
I didn't know that. I did it in 2 minutes now, Kunal. Maybe I'll...
No, that is not helpful information at all.
That's it. Real people.
No, you're not looking after your skin enough.
Awesome. And now I want to know the two of you. When do we see you together?
Right now?
No, on screen together.
On screen?
Not anytime soon. We've not kind of come across anything which both of us have kind of said, hey, lovely, let's do this together. And in all honesty, I don't think anybody's approached, or no, they did, some people did.
Yeah.
But we both weren't very excited about that.
But you'll see us independently in things over the summer.
Yeah, of course. I did see you. I just interviewed him for a day and I didn't get an opportunity to interview you. But what's coming on next? What can we...
there was KBS called Maredi Shikarvati on Z, and now on Amazon there's a show called Hush Hush, directed by Tanuja Chandra. So that, I think, in the next 2 or 3 months, it should be available to see.
Yeah.
So have your choices changed after motherhood? Like you want to do a certain kind of work and the work should be, exciting enough for you to leave the baby. And sometimes mothers are conscious about, I will not do something that my child will see, or, that kind of
No, I'm not concerned because my child is anyway very daunted by the audiovisual medium. She runs away from the television most times.
This one's not becoming an actor, yeah.
So I'm not concerned. Unless I'm going to be featuring in the next Peppa Pig, she's not going to be watching me. But I definitely, it needs to be attractive enough to take me away from her. And there are very few things that compete. And now I've realized that I need to be more open to doing things. And of course the schedule, because work is it's 12 hours a day and it's, sometimes disappearing for 3 weeks. She's now started going to school. My priority is always Innaya. And I want to be, that's why I think I chose to have her later in life, so that I could make her my priority for as long as I can. Now that she's a little bit older and more independent of me, I find myself willing to step out more, but I find myself wanting to be home at 8 p.m., which is bedtime, which is difficult you're on a film set.
And lastly, before I go, who's the better storyteller amongst the two? Who does Innaya want to read, my bedtime story to? Is it Papa or is it Mama?
No, of course, she reads it better because she reads it all the time. And as one of those kids who can wake up in the morning and say that, let's pick a book and read. But I'm the one who actually narrates stories, like I said, our imagination. She likes that also. So I think that's why she is like, so if Soha's not around and I'm going to do story time with her, then she's excited and she'll pick up those kind of books because I kind of do the whole fanfare around it and, take on characters and put on voices and sometimes read them slowly. And if Soha's in the room, she'll be like,
it's bedtime, hurry it up.
Yeah. And then I have to be like,
oh, wow. So we know who's the good cop and the bad cop here.
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely bad cop.
Okay. Thank you so much. All the very best. I hope we get real Bobos soon. And God willing, it will happen. Looking forward to the second one now. Can you give us a little sneak peek? What is it what would that be about?
So in this one, it's about how Inni and Bobo find each other. And this is when she kind of finds this little one and she takes him home. The second one is how they both introduce each other to their worlds and what they learn from each other. And a day out for both of them.
Lovely. Looking forward to that. As I say, every kid needs to have an animal because they teach you a lot.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you soon.
Bye. Bye-bye.